Back in 2008, I was cruising through the Uwharrie National Forest with my best friend Mark. We'd met up at a brewery in Ashboro, one of those new places with Edison bulbs and dozens of IPAs on tap, to catch up like we'd been doing since we were kids. It wasn't a wild night. We were both staring down the barrel of our 30s and had work in the morning. By the time we left, just after 1 a.m., we'd had maybe 2 beers each. We were sober, just tired and content. I was driving my old Toyota 4Runner, a beast of a machine from the 90s that rattled like a can of bolts, but it never once failed me. The 45-minute drive back to our tiny hometown of Flint Creek was a familiar one, a long stretch of 2-lane blacktop that sliced through the dark heart of the Uwharrie National Forest. The conversation was easy, flowing from jokes about our high school teachers to the quiet anxieties of adult life. The 4Runner's headlights cut a weak yellow tunnel through an absolute blackness. Out here, the ancient oaks and hickories grew so close to the road they formed a canopy, swallowing the moonlight and pressing in on all sides. It was just us, the rumbling engine, and the endless woods. We were about halfway home, nearing the old Iron Truss Bridge that crossed the PD River. It was a local landmark, a narrow bottleneck where the asphalt squeezed tight and the world outside your windows became a cage of rusting steel beams. As we came around the last curve before the bridge, I eased my foot off the gas. Something had caught the edge of my headlights, a flicker of movement on the gravel shoulder, right where the bridge's concrete abutment rose from the weeds. "Probably just another deer," I said, more to myself than to Mark. He was turned toward me, in the middle of a story about his boss. Then it moved. It wasn't the tentative step of a deer or the lumbering gait of a bear. It was an explosion of motion. In a single, terrifyingly fluid movement, a figure leaped from the shoulder into the dead center of my lane. It was all over in a second. My brain screamed brake, but my foot, possessed by some primal instinct to flee, stomped on the accelerator. The 4Runner surged forward with a roar, and in the same instant, the figure launched itself back to the side of the road, a blur of motion vanishing into the darkness just as we shot past. The image, however, was burned onto my retinas by the flash of the high beams. It was shaped like a man, but it was not a man. It stood tall and impossibly broad on 2 long, powerful legs. It wore no clothes, its body covered in a thick, matted coat of hair the color of dead leaves in a wet winter, a dull, sickly grayish brown. Its arms were long, hanging nearly to its knees, ending in what looked like thick, dark hands. I couldn't make out a face, not really, but I saw 2 deep-set sockets that didn't reflect the light like an animal's eyes would. They just swallowed it. 2 small patches of absolute void. The sheer power and speed of its jump was what defied all logic. It was an athletic impossibility, a violation of physics. We were across the bridge and a quarter-mile down the road before either of us made a sound. The cab was suddenly a vacuum. The cheerful atmosphere sucked out and replaced with a thick, suffocating dread. My hands were clamped to the steering wheel, knuckles white. My voice came out as a strangled whisper. "Mark, did you see that?" He was sitting ramrod straight in the passenger seat, staring out the windshield at the empty road ahead. A long, heavy moment passed. I could hear the frantic drumming of my own heart. Finally, he answered, his voice flat and hollow. "Yeah, what the hell was that?" And that was it. That was the last thing we ever said about it. An unspoken pact of silence formed between us in the rattling cab of that old truck. To speak of it would be to give it a name, to make it real. And some things are too monstrous to be made real. The rest of the drive was a tense, quiet crawl. When I pulled up to his house, he just opened the door, stepped out, and gave a short, jerky nod before walking into the light of his porch and disappearing inside. Years passed. Our friendship continued, but that night left a permanent scar. There was always a small, dark space between us now, an invisible wall built on that bridge. We never spoke of it, not once. It was a shared nightmare we had both tacitly agreed to forget. I'm sad to say Mark passed away 2 years ago. A drunk driver ran a red light. It was a senseless, tragically normal death that had nothing to do with monsters in the woods. With his passing, the only other witness to the thing on the bridge was gone. Now, I'm the sole keeper of that impossible memory. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I see it again. That grotesque, powerful leap in the glare of my headlights. I'm left alone with the chilling certainty of what I saw, and the terrifying knowledge that the world is much older and stranger than we think. And I know that for the rest of my life, every time I drive a dark country road at night, a part of me will be bracing for something to jump out of the shadows, its dead leaf hair and light-swallowing eyes waiting for me in the dark.